Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's been months, or almost a year really, since we have been waiting for a new support that could finally bring Aqua back and make it competitive with other elements. And to my surprise, S.Willow doesn't do just that. She is also an excellent universal support that works well in other elements as well. For example, she can be used as an alternative to S.Willow in Ignis teams, or even fit into Ventus teams if you don't have some of the limited characters. Because of that, this new character changes a lot more than just one single element. There are so many new builds and team variations that I want to cover. That's why I'm splitting this into a series of guides. Each video will cover one specific team, whether that's Chitose Skill Build, Chitose AA build, Donna GPS, the new Reverse Mark build, or any other important teams. So in this first video, we'll focus on the Chitose Skill Build, which can now compete with Ignis teams. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's take a look at the team itself. Before S.Willow, the best team for Chitose Skill Build was Chitose, Donna, and Teresa. The team was okay, it wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't strong enough to compete with other top teams. People thought that it's because Chitose was bad, but the truth is, Chitose was not the problem. The real weakness was Teresa. Compared to other supports available in other elements, Teresa couldn't just provide enough to keep the team competitive. No Aqua damage, lack of Aqua damage taken, and no buff or debuff even on her base kit. And that's exactly what S.Willow changes. She fills those missing pieces that this team has been lacking and finally gives Aqua a support that lets Chitose perform at the level she was capable of. So, what exactly does S.Willow bring to the team? First, her support skill provides Aqua damage. And if you also get this potential, Engulfing Tide, that's another 70% Aqua damage for Chitose. Second, Aqua damage taken. Before S.Willow, Donna's Frostbitten Arrow was basically the only reliable source of this debuff, which is why it has been the strongest potential for any Chitose team. And now S.Willow adds even more Aqua damage taken from her pink potential and her ultimate pot, adding much needed debuff for the team. On top of that, she also provides 30% crit rate and depth penetration for the entire team, giving another significant boost to overall team damage. And besides all of that, her design is so perfect. Anyway, let's move on to the builds. You will notice that Chitose and Donna are using almost the same build as before, with just a few changes. So let's get through them one by one. Starting with Chitose. Returning Tide only needs to be at level 1 because the extra levels don't provide much value. We mainly take it for utility since it lets Chitose use her enhanced version of the skill all the time. For the two optional potential on the right, the choice depends on whether you are planning to use her ultimate or not. I will explain why later, but here's the short version. If you are using her ultimate, then pick Serpent Dance. But if you aren't, just go with Waltz Ripples instead. Just remember that Waltz Ripples requires you to dash every 6 seconds to refresh the buff. Or the easiest way is to dash right before using Chitose skill. Now let's talk about Donna. Frostbitten Arrow is still the best potential for this team. Even though S.Willow provides additional Aqua damage taken now, the debuff is still extremely valuable. And for this potential on the right, on paper, Messenger Arrow is actually stronger, but only if you can consistently pick up Donna's mail to maintain the buff. In actual gameplay though, it's not easy to do. Because of that, I recommend Aquatic Assault combo since it's much more consistent. But if you are confident that you can keep Messenger Arrow active throughout the fight, then that potential is the better choice. Now let's move on to S.Willow. There are 3 important potentials to consider: Marine Justice, Balmy Surf, and Receding Echoes. The priority between these 3 isn't fixed. It depends on your emblems. Let's start with Marine Justice. The value depends heavily on her charge efficiency. If you have around 30% charge efficiency, S.Willow can cast her ultimate 5 times during the fight. That means Marine Justice can apply Aqua damage taken debuff much more often, making it the best potential between these 3. But if you can't reach that amount of charge efficiency, the value of Marine Justice drops quite a bit. Next is Receding Echoes, or the crit damage pot. Its value depends on how much crit rate you have on Chitose and Donna. If they have 15% crit rate on their emblems, then the value of Receding Echoes is about the same as Balmy Surf. But if you are heavily invested in Chitose and Donna and have 30% crit rate, then Receding Echoes becomes even better, to the point where it's comparable to Marine Justice. So in this case, Balmy Surf ends up being the weakest one here. So, the priority of this pot depends on 3 things: S.Willow's charge efficiency, how many ultimates she can cast, and the crit rate on Chitose and Donna. So keep this factor in mind when you choose her potential for the build. Now, let's move on to the next one. How do you actually play this team? I will keep this part fairly short because I already covered the Chitose Skill Build in detail in my previous guide. If you want a complete breakdown of her mechanics, be sure to check that video out. In short, Chitose Skill Build is very auto-friendly, just like her auto attack build. The main thing you need to keep in mind is that you have to cast her next skill within 6 seconds. The reason is that the skill damage buff from Serpent in Time is only active for 6 seconds, and if you let it expire, you will lose the buff and have to build it back up again, which is pretty noticeable damage loss. The second thing to keep in mind is Chitose hitbox. Her skills deals damage across 3 different phases. The first hit when the skill is activated, the second hit during the dash, and the last 2 hits after she finishes the dash. So to get the most damage, you want all 4 hits to connect with the boss. That means you shouldn't use her skill to travel across the map, dash toward the boss, or dash away from it. Instead, try to position yourself so the entire skill animation stays on top of the target. The picture on the screen should give you a better idea of what I mean. One more thing to talk about Chitose is her ultimate. Normally, her ultimate animation is so long. It lasts longer than the 6-second buff from Serpent in Time. So if you use her ultimate, that buff will expire before you even have a chance to refresh it. The solution is actually very simple. Turn the ultimate animation on. Even though the ultimate takes longer in real time with that setting on, the actual in-game timer actually pauses during the animation. Because of that, much less in-game time actually passes, giving you enough time to refresh the buff afterward. So your rotation should look like this. First, cast Chitose skill, and let all 4 hits connect. After that, cast her ultimate right away. Then after her ultimate is complete, cast her next skill immediately to refresh the Serpent in Time buff. And that's basically how you use her ultimate properly. As for Donna, she is pretty straightforward. Donna will always attack the target that you've locked onto. So just make sure your target icon stays on the boss whenever you are using her skill. And if you want to use her ultimate, just make sure that all of her attacks already hit the target before you cast her ultimate. Or just wait until her skill cooldown is 8 seconds, then cast her ultimate. And finally, let's talk about S.Willow. Compared to Chitose, she is much easier to play. But there are two important things to keep in mind. First is her circle. Whenever you are using Chitose skills, make sure that Chitose is staying inside of the circle. That's because S.Willow Aqua damage buff is tied into the circle. So if you are outside of it, she won't receive that buff. The second thing is, S.Willow's ultimate takes about 5 seconds to finish, so she will be locked in the animation for a while. In most situations, this isn't a problem. However, there are some cases where her ultimate can drop the buffs from prismatic bubbles, receding echoes, and even the buff from her signature disc. But they aren't that bad, and those are relevant if you are pushing top score on the leaderboard. So for most players, you don't need to worry about them. Just focus on keeping Chitose inside the circle, and using S.Willow ultimate while her circle is active. Now, let's get into the part that most of you are probably here for. How to build this team. We'll start with something simple, the skill priority. As you can see, almost all of Chitose's damage comes from her skill. Because of that, her skill priority is upgrading her main skill. Her ultimate and basic attack don't contribute much damage in this build, so you can leave them at level 4 or level 7 if you have extra resources. Donna is also very similar, since most of her damage comes from her skill. Her support skill is the only thing you need to upgrade. And just like Chitose, her ultimate can stay at level 4, or you can skip it without hurting her damage. For S.Willow, she is a little different. Both her support skill and ultimate provide team buffs, but the buff values don't scale very well with the skill levels. Because of that, I recommend leaving both of them at level 7, and if you have plenty of resources, you can max her support skill to level 10 for a small improvement. But it's not something that you have to do. Let's talk about emblems, starting with Chitose. As usual, Rainbow Pen is your best choice, so try to get that on level 70 emblem if possible. After that, the next best upgrade is main skill plus 3, which gives roughly 20% increase to her damage. From there, you have two options. If you are aiming for the absolute best emblem, you want to roll rainbow crit rate on both level 70 and 80 emblems. With S.Willow providing more crit damage, crit rate becomes much more valuable than it was before, making it the third best stat for Chitose in this team. But if you rather save your resources, then your next best option are yellow crit rate or rainbow skill damage. They are weaker but much more affordable, and still give her a solid damage boost. For level 90 emblem, her best potential plus 3 is Flowing Circle, with Serpentine coming in second. As for other potential plus 3, I don't recommend investing your resources into them, since the damage increase is fairly small compared to these two. Now, moving on to Donna. Her emblem priorities are quite similar to Chitose's. As usual, Rainbow Pen is her best stat, followed by support skill plus 3. For the second stat on each emblem, you have two good options, 15% crit rate or 20% skill damage. The difference between these is actually quite small. So unless you are aiming for an ideal emblem, I don't think it's worth spending extra resources trying to roll for rainbow crit rate. In most cases, 20% skill damage is the more practical choice. For level 90, the priority stays the same as before. Your first choice should be Frostbeating Arrow, followed by Water Ripple if you have resources to spare. You might notice that Arrow Pursuit gives Donna the highest personal damage, but in this team, Donna only contributes about 1/3 of the total team damage, so increasing her personal damage isn't as valuable as increasing the team overall damage. That said, if you happen to get Arrow Pursuit plus 3, I would recommend keeping it. It can still be very useful if you ever decide to play Donna as the main DPS in another team. Now let's talk about S.Willow. S.Willow only contributes around 5% of the team total damage, so I don't recommend getting DPS stat on her. Instead, focus on stats that improve her support capability. For example, support skill +3. After that, try to get around 30% charge efficiency. In this team, that should be enough for S.Willow to cast ultimate 5 times during the fight, and maximize Aqua damage taken debuff from Marine Justice. For her level 90 emblem, Prismatic Bubble is the best choice. After that, Engulfing Tide. You should know that the damage comparison here assumes that both Chitose and Donna have no crit rate on their emblems. So if they have crit rate, whether that is 15 or even 30%, then the value of receding echoes goes up quite a bit and become much more competitive. So keep that in mind when rolling for a potential +3. Now let's talk about disc, starting with limited options. S.Willow signature disc is by far the best choice, and I would recommend getting it if you can. If you look at the comparison table, you will see that S.Willow signature provides roughly 20% more damage bonus over Chitose's and Donna's signature disc. And that's actually not the whole story. The numbers in this table only show the direct damage increase, but her signature disc also restore energy to your support after they use their ultimate. That means you don't have to rely as much as charge efficiency from the emblem, making the team much more easier to optimize overall, which makes it even more valuable than what you can see from the chart. And if you are free-to-play player, your best option is Freesia signature, followed by C6 Cataclysm, and then one of the two Aqua event discs. For support slot, Freesia's signature is still the best option because it provides skill damage for the entire team. After that, the event disc and Cataclysm are the second best option. If you are already using Freesia's signature disc, Cataclysm disc, and the event disc on your main slot, then for your support slots, you can use the remaining Aqua event disc and realistically, any C6 of element disc to fill the rest. So overall, considering both damage increase and the extra utility from S.Willow signature disc, I highly recommend pulling for it. It's not only the best disc for this team, but it's probably the best disc in the game right now. Now, let's move on to the talent recommendations. Starting with Chitose. I have to admit that her talent progression is fairly underwhelming. From T0 to T5, she only gains around 25% total damage, which makes her talents a low priority investment. But if you decide to invest into her talents, T2 is probably the best stopping point. T3 is another reasonable upgrade, while T5 gives significant jump over T4. So overall, I would either stop at T2 or commit all the way to T5. Hopefully, her talents receive some improvements in the future, because compared to many other characters, they are simply not that impressive. Donna is a different story. Her problem in this team is the lack of skill damage, and that's exactly what T2 and T5 improve. As a result, you will see a large jump in her personal damage from those two talents. However, if you look at the overall team damage, the gains are actually quite consistent from T1 all the way to T5. Because of that, there is no good stopping point and you can stop at any talent you want. Finally, S.Willow. Her talents are extremely strong because they fix the biggest problem for Aqua, the lack of Aqua damage taken. Both T2 and T5 provide large increases to that debuff, which is why you see significant jump in team damage from those talents. Because of that, I would recommend either stopping at T2 or go all the way to T5. One more thing to mention is T3. Even though it doesn't look that good from this chart, it provides critical damage for the entire team. And keep in mind that this calculation assumes that Chitose and Donna have no crit rate on their emblems. So if your DPS got high crit rate, then the value of S.Willow T3 goes up even further. Now, what if you don't have Donna? Who should you replace her with? Is it Frisia, Teresa, Iris, or maybe even Tilia? I have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is, none of those characters are a true replacement for Donna in Skill Build. But if I had to pick one, Tilia would be the best option because she is a strong universal support and also provides skill damage taken, but is still far worse than Donna. As for others, Frisia is mainly designed for auto-attack teams. She doesn't fit very well here. Teresa? Well, we just replaced her with S.Willow for a reason. And Iris? Sorry Iris fan, I know you just got her new skin, but she really doesn't work well in this team. Or any other team. So if your goal is to play Chitose Skill Build, there really isn't comparable replacement for Donna. However, the good news is, if you put Tilia in this team, there is another build that you can play, and it performs at similar level to the full team skill build. You'll be using the new Chitose Mark build, which is made possible by S.Willow. I will be covering that build in the next guide, but I will leave the team build on the screen in case you want to try it yourself. One important thing to keep in mind is that, even though S.Willow deals additional mark damage ticks, this mark damage still belongs to Chitose. That means you should not roll mark damage, pen, or crit rate on S.Willow, because S.Willow isn't the one dealing it. For now, I'm thinking about calling this build as Reverse Mark. The name might not be perfect, but at least I want something that immediately tells people this isn't traditional Mark build, and hopefully, when they see this, it will make people stop for a second, instead of assuming that they would have to roll DPS stats on S.Willow. Another nice thing about this build is that it's very budget friendly. You can get very competitive results even with low investment and free to play this. As for how well it scales with higher investment, I will answer that in the next guide, where I will cover everything from the skill priority, emblems, to this and talent recommendations. So if you don't have Donna, don't worry. While there is no true replacement for the skill build, the Chitose Mark build is still very competitive and definitely worth trying. So to wrap everything up, S.Willow is incredibly strong support and finally fills the missing piece that Aqua has been lacking for a long time. Not only does she significantly improve Aqua teams, she is also a very flexible support with the potential to fill into the team from other elements as well. I think we will see a lot more team variations built around her in the future. Her signature disc is also amazing. It's easily the best disc for Aqua right now, and honestly, I think it's one of the strongest discs in the game. So if you can afford it, I highly recommend pulling for her signature disc. As for her talents, they are definitely worth investing in. I recommend stopping at T2 and T3, especially if your DPS character are already well invested. And if you are planning to fully commit to S.Willow, her T5 is extremely good. Now if you don't have Donna, don't worry. While there is no real replacement for her in Chitose Skill Build, you can still build a very competitive team by playing the new Reverse Mark build with Tilia. And that's pretty much everything I want to cover in this video. If I missed anything, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I will do my best to answer them. And if you like a deeper explanation of how Chitose Skill Build works, I also have a previous guide that goes into much more detail, so be sure to check that out. And that's all for this one. The rest of my S.Willow guide will be coming soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.